and founder of Western New York Heroes, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for this important press release. When the Senator's office reached out to see if we would stand behind the Blast Overpressure Safety Act, it was more than an easy yes. Myself coming home from Iraq, in and out of the hospital, dealing with my own injuries and illnesses, to include having spent time in a polytrauma brain center in Richmond, Virginia. I personally, and as president of Western New York Heroes, back and support this proposal. As we all know, TBI also plays a complicated daily injury after returning home. And because of that, I've created Positive for Heroes, a service dog program to assist those going through the same issues as I. To date, we have paired over 200 veterans with service dogs, all referred through the VA hospital. This is one of our many ways Western New York Heroes does our part for 22 a day when it comes to veterans dealing with traumatic brain injury. Senator and Congressman, we stand with you. With that, I now turn it over to Honorable Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm very grateful to Chris for your enormous vision and dedication to serving your fellow veterans to make sure that they can continue to thrive. Thank you for having the inspiration and dedication to get this done. It really is making a huge difference and saving many lives, and we're very grateful for all of you for being here today. Thank you. Erie County is home to 42,000 veterans who make up over 5% of our local population, more than the state average. So the work that you do here is essential. I also want to recognize and thank Congressman Tim Kennedy for his great work and his dedication to this community. I also want to thank all the representatives from the Erie County Veterans Service Agency and their service dogs and handlers. Thank you to all of you for being part of this program and for all the service you've given to this nation. We're very grateful for everything you've done. I want to thank all the veterans and service members who are standing with us today. I'm so grateful that you're willing to share your stories, to let people know what you need as you continue your lifelong service. Our country is stronger because of you, and I want to thank you for many sacrifices that you've made to protect our freedoms. I was actually in Buffalo in 2020 to highlight the work that I've been doing to extend VA benefits to veterans exposed to the toxins released at burn pits that were created during the War on Terror. I'm very proud that we were able to pass this into law with the PACT Act, giving 3.5 million veterans the care that they've earned. Now we face similar challenges. We have service members developing previously undetected traumatic brain injuries, or TBIs. Oftentimes they can't concentrate, sleep, some have hallucinations, have severe headaches, seizures, and too many dying by suicide. What we've learned about these traumatic brain injuries is that they're caused by the blast from a lot of the weapons used in training and combat, like artillery mortars and shoulder-fired rockets. But even though we know this, service members continue to train using these weapons. That's what today's legislation is about. We're calling on the Department of Defense to learn much more about these injuries and do what it takes to protect our service members. This bipartisan bill is called the Blast Overpressure Safety Act. It will mitigate and protect service members from blast overpressure injuries. The legislation requires the DoD to enact better blast overpressure screening, tracking, prevention, and treatment, and it would improve transparency regarding the weapons service members used. I've also sent a letter to the Government Accountability Office requesting a review of the DoD's efforts to identify, prevent, and treat traumatic brain injuries related to blast overpressure exposure. These kinds of injuries are not just health and safety issues for our service members, they're also a threat to our national security if these service members are getting injured and becoming debilitated faster than combat replacements can be trained to take their place. We need to set our service members up for success, and we need to make sure that their health and well-being is looked after. Their success and their well-being is our security. So we are going to come together on this bill, and we're going to get it done by the end of the year so that we can continue to protect and respond to the needs of our service members and veterans as soon as possible. I'd now like to invite up our next speaker, Congressman Tim Kennedy.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Senator Gillibrand for her leadership and for being here once again. Constantly making her way to Buffalo, making sure that she's present on the ground, listening to our community, and being an effective voice in Washington. We're so grateful as a Western New York community for your continued leadership and advocacy. I want to thank the Western New York Heroes organization, begun by this great man and friend of ours and leader in our community, Chris Krieger, who over a decade ago, following a return from Iraq in 2004, worked with his service dog and saw barriers in society and helped to mitigate those barriers by his effective advocacy with government officials, including myself when I was a member of the New York State Legislature, and of course at the federal level with leaders like Senator Gillibrand and others. And we're just so grateful for everything that you have done, Chris, and now by extension, the Positive for Heroes that is training service dogs right here on East Delavan in the heart of the city of Buffalo in a program that's gone national. And so thank you all for your work, your leadership, and helping veterans each and every day. And I want to thank our veterans and service members and their families for their sacrifice that they make each and every day on the front lines and when they return home. And as Senator Gillibrand has mentioned, we have an obligation to deliver for our servicemen and women that have donned the uniform to sacrifice for our country when they're on the front lines and when they return home. And the issues that they're dealing with, both physically and the mental health issues that they have taken on that are now more apparent than ever with the technology and healthcare that is abound, unlike ever before, is allowing us to treat our service men and women when they return home. And there's so much more work to do. Just last year, we know that there were 7,300 military veterans who took their own lives. That is an appalling number. And that must drive us forward to work with organizations like Western New York Heroes and to pass effective legislation like the one that's being championed in the Senate by Senator Gillibrand, and one that I am proud to co-sponsor, the Blast Overpressure Safety Act in the House, that will ensure that when our military is both training and when they are effectively defending our country and spreading freedom throughout the globe, that they're doing so in a safer environment, and also that they have the treatment necessary to help themselves and their families once they return to our home shores. So again, I want to thank our veterans. I want to thank Western New York Heroes, and I especially want to thank Senator Gillibrand for her effective advocacy in continuing to put families and military veterans at the top of her priority list in Washington. We're looking forward to getting this over the finish line. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Senator.
Thank you. We're happy to take any on-topic questions at this point. It does a couple of things. First of all, it requires the Department of Defense to study the impact of these weapons on our service members' brains, seeing does it cause traumatic brain injury, how many exposures or how many blasts can a human skull and brain take without becoming injured, specific analysis about what kind of training could either avoid this type of injury or minimize this type of injury, and then data and screening so that we know how healthy is the brain when the service member starts his active duty, and is it being degraded over time. We need much more data and information, starting with the service member and then how to prevent these injuries. And then last, calling on the VA and the DoD to create treatments to make sure we have state-of-the-art medical professionals treating these TBIs initially from the beginning so that these service members do not have the horrific symptoms that they have now, which is chronic headaches, inability to concentrate, suicidal ideation, and other issues.
Chris, do you mind talking a little bit? You've been doing this for 2 decades. Think changes you have seen, things have gotten better, things that haven't gotten better as quickly as you'd like to see them?
Yeah, myself, that was part of the reason why coming back home and creating Western New York Heroes overall. There were no programs or services like this after I came back home. And if there was, maybe my life wouldn't have fallen apart the way it did. And again, I used to be ashamed of it, and I'm not anymore. I contemplated suicide day in and day out, because when I came back home, trying to get the services I needed was very slow at the time. Where I did spend many, many days in a polytrauma brain center in Richmond, Virginia, where I met other veterans, male and female, who were going through the same thing. And it wasn't until I received my first service dog through friends of mine that made me realize that, I can't do what I've been planning on doing. And seeing that it changed my life is when I realized this has got to work for everyone else, and created the Positive for Heroes program that launched in 2013. Again, I will always stay firm on this. Dealing with my own traumatic brain injury, now epilepsy, in and out of the hospital constantly, much more at the time upon coming home. I always will be fully 100% in support of this.
Do you think things have gotten a lot better since you returned home, or do you think things just haven't progressed as quickly as they should as far as services available, treatment studies, things like this bill?
I've been asked that question several times, and I'll just give the same answer. If Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans, World War II veterans take a step back to where the VA was then, to where it is now, amazing work for them, right? I know the VA is constantly trying to stay updated and provide as many services and change services as they can to meet the needs of those coming back home. There was at the beginning, when I came home in 2004, nobody really knew what to do with us. As time goes on, yeah, their services are becoming much, much greater to offer many more services to veterans. And over time, it will just continue to rise, hopefully.
Can you then, one more time, can you talk about what you think this bill will do to help?
I think this bill is going to push the Department of Veterans Affairs to put veterans further on the forefront and make these studies happen. And let's get the studies that we need in order to go forward with an amazing bill. Our veterans are why we have our freedoms today, right? We should not be putting them aside to put money elsewhere where it should be focused on our veterans and their health. I know when I signed up to join the military, I signed and was told, sign here and we'll take care of you for life. It doesn't always happen that way for many of our veterans, and it's kind of sad. So with the work that both the congressman and the senator are doing, amen, because this truly needs to be done, and done now, before we continue to lose more lives.
Is this the first part of a stage of legislation that you might go through, that you first examine
Yep.
this, and then I assume maybe more
So,
money will be coming out?
right, so what we've found over time is that it's really important to get the program up and running so you can make it better over time. So for example, the burn pits bill we got done a year and a half ago. We're implementing it now, and what we really need are specialists. We need the VA and the DoD to have specialists in all the cancers that these burn pit survivors are getting. Lung cancers, esophageal cancers, stomach cancers, brain cancers. The better experts we have within the VA system and within the active duty system, they're going to get diagnosed quicker, and they'll have more life-saving care earlier on in their lives to keep more of their ability available to them. So we learned it with the 9/11 health bill. You just need to keep developing experts in these fields so they can diagnose early and prevent some of the worst symptoms from developing. So we'll just keep improving it. Usually you need more money over time, but once you get it up and running, you can see how it's working. And we're doing that with the 9/11 health bill right now. We're going to do it with the burn pits bill. It's just how you write good laws. It takes you time.
So with TBIs, that's not just limited to the military too. So if you're in the sports world and all that, do you see that growing from that?
Yes. So Yes, I just watched the Bills training this morning. We went to their training camp in Rochester, and football players are among the highest number of patients who have traumatic brain injury. The way the brain is impacted by constant impact playing a sport is not dissimilar from the impact when you're firing, you know, a very significant large artillery or, you know, shoulder-fired rocket or other type of blast. It's not dissimilar. So hopefully we can collaborate between the expertise that's being developed in the sports world and the expertise that needs to be developed within the veterans community.
Because I came in a little late here, can you talk about the very well-behaved dogs on there earlier?
Yes, let's hear about the program.
So the Positive for Heroes program is a service dog program that we created in 2013 and went national about a year and a half ago. Reason being is it was always our promise that 100% of everything with Western New York Heroes stays in Western New York, but we were getting applications from across the country from veterans asking for service dogs, and we kept denying them. And myself, again, who's contemplated suicide and dealt with traumatic brain injury and everything else that goes with it, we have the tool these veterans are asking for, so why are we telling them no? So out of all the programs with Western New York Heroes, we decided to take the Positive for Heroes program and go national with it. And now we've paired over 200 veterans nationally, locally, with service dogs who have all been medically referred to our program through the VA hospital. So it's a program that truly makes a difference in saving lives.
Can that work in hand with this legislation as far as, as you're identifying this, you can start to
Yep. So this organization and other not-for-profits like it will be given all the resources that we create. So they'll know when a service member or a veteran comes in and says, I have some of these symptoms, they'll be able to say, have you checked to the VA with this? Are you getting this treatment? Have you seen these specialists? They'll develop their own expertise about how to help people in their program based on what the VA offers. And so these types of organizations will be hand in glove with what the VA will ultimately be doing. We can do off topics after I say goodbye to everybody.